Food will continue to change thanks to so many activists, consumers, journalists who have fueled the most remarkable evolution we've seen in our lifetimes. But now I want to tell you one thing that will never change. You need to be restored. We human beings so crave being restored and restoring, giving hospitality and receiving hospitality. And it all goes back really to the first few moments after we were each born.
What would it mean to have a vision of the food movement that is as deep as the problem? How can we break through big structural problems with bold structural solutions? And by leadership here, I'm talking about leadership from the ground up, not the top down. Nothing is more transformative than when communities, not corporations, are in full say of their own future. If we're successful, we won't just change the way that we eat. We'll change the way that we live and the way that we treat each other.
Who is buying this expensive organic food? Who in America is buying it? 3 out of every 4 Americans have consciously chosen to buy organic food in the past year. There is a subset that are so-called devoted organic shoppers. These so-called foodies are not 1%, they're 25%, 1 out of every 4 Americans. What does the elite foodie look like? 2 out of 5 of them have an annual household income of less than $50,000. How does that profile compare to the general United States population? It's exactly the same. In every respect, the foodie elite who are buying organic are the average, ordinary American. So organic saves money, is less expensive, can produce as much or more food, is more profitable, and is scaling. Then why the heck is organic food so expensive? And the answer is because the demand for organic food is growing even faster. We need organic, sustainably managed cropland in this country to increase dramatically to catch up with the enormous demand.
When you apply economic development tools to food, they become community development tools too. A food port on this scale doesn't just loosen the bottleneck between supply and demand. It can completely rebuild the neighborhoods around it. 200 years ago, the producer of food and the consumer of it were the same person, or at least they were close neighbors. Between producer and consumer, we have introduced a long string of strangers. And yet we are hungry to rebuild a sense of community between farmers and ourselves.
I walked into work one day and I was ordered to stop every other investigation that I had started against a CAFO. I was stunned and I was furious. And in that moment, I was forever changed because I learned that justness and fairness aren't a given, even when dealing with an agency whose mandate it is to protect public health and the environment. Rather, it's something that we constantly have to fight for. I also quit my job at EPA because I couldn't do my job, and now I sue them. The factory farm fight is pitting neighbor against neighbor, family against family, all across this country, not just in Missouri. If you eat, you have a stake in our food system. We invite you to this fight to reclaim our food system and to make government work for the people.
You've been helping get the Gimmie 5 challenge off the ground in celebration of the 5th anniversary of Let's Move, but you haven't answered the challenge yourself. Well, now it's your turn. Give me 5 push-ups, and then be sure to pass it on.
So the whole idea is that we're going to give 5 ideas for a healthier America. So, Ryan Seacrest did 5 burpees, Beyonce did her 5 workout routines. I hear the president's going to do it, but now, as you've seen, I've been called out. So will you guys give me a little bit of support? Will you count out my 5? All right. All right, we're doing this.
3, 4, 5.
I got to be able to show my arms next to the First Lady, so that's a good practice for me. Our children's health is not and should not be a partisan issue. There is nothing Democrat and there is nothing Republican about making sure that our healthy school lunches match scientific recommendations. That is not a partisan issue. Thank you. We have to work across individual political and cultural differences.
This is a human being, the single most precious thing in the world. In fact, priceless, yet this is the type of fuel we are giving the human body to make it run. You've got a food industry that's duping you every day, and you're buying into it. You've got a government whose regulations on our food system are subpar, and you have credible health professionals on morning shows talking about healthy breakfasts, including a peanut butter filled with trans fats and tons of sugar. And please become a skeptical shopper. This is the drive behind all of my work. Question the foods you choose. Don't believe the banners on the boxes. Turn your box around. If your ingredient list reads like a short novel, if there's something you can't pronounce, don't buy it. That's a great start.
I believe that we need more lifestyle prescriptions. So I prescribe yoga, meditation, and exercise. But more importantly, I prescribe real food, 365, 3 times a day, whole food, plant-based diets, 365, as well as fruits and vegetables. In most traditional medical systems, Chinese, Indian, Latin American, food is medicine and medicine is food. The future of nations depends on the manner of how they feed themselves. Now, sadly, over the last 200 years, how we feed ourselves, and we heard it this morning, has gotten a lot more complicated, and over the past 50 years, as foods have become more processed and more convenient, all we've gotten is fatter and sicker. Let this be the time, ladies and gentlemen, that future generations say that our doctors, our chefs, our farmers, and policymakers finally got this thing right.
So farmers markets have exploded across the country. They've gone up dramatically in the last 20 years. And that's just been great for farmers. Farmers markets connect people to the people who grow their food. They build relationships, and a lot of the times they're the only chance for city dwellers to understand rural communities and the people who live there. I like to call farmers markets the gateway drug to local. Why are we still losing farms? According to the American Farmland Trust, we lose a farm every 3.5 days. That's an incredible and scary number. And maybe it's because farmers market CSAs and farm stands make up 1% of what Americans eat. The next time you go to a restaurant or you go to a grocery store, ask them a simple question. Is anything here from a local farm? That'll keep driving demand, like you all do at farmers markets.
To be schooled, you must be fueled. To be well-read, you must be well-fed. In fact, every major national goal, cutting obesity, restoring the middle class, cutting crime and incarceration, reducing healthcare spending, protecting the country from our enemies, and slashing poverty, to accomplish any of those things, we must first end hunger. But charity is not the answer. America was sold on the myth that uncoordinated, underfunded, antiquated charities could somehow solve hunger and poverty. As a result, just a few years after we almost ended hunger, the US faced a growing hunger epidemic. And cuts in SNAP recently enacted by the President and Congress equal about 3 years' worth of food distributed by all the nation's charities.
If we can change our minds about the beauty of a tomato, then we can probably change our minds about the beauty of other ingredients. And if we can do that, if we can take what we once thought was ugly and see it as beautiful, we can reduce food waste and change the world. Join me as today at Food and Wine we launch this hashtag, Love Ugly Food.
50% of the kids cited the biggest obstacle to their school's success is not teachers, is not schools, is not testing, is not the grouch. It is their own personal health and wellness. That's the kids. It's madness. So damn it, I'm not willing to accept the things I can't change anymore. I'm going to change the things I can't accept, and I'm here today asking for your support. This is my harvest. That's what we're growing in school with kids, along to outstanding academic outcomes. And I'm here to tell you, eating a bag of Skittles is not eating across the rainbow, damn it. Healthy food is. And that's what these kids need. And if you expand their palates, you expand their minds, and we expand the possibilities so that we can grow something greater. It is easier to raise healthy children than fix broken men, damn it, and that's what we need to do. That needs to be the voice of this movement. That's what we need to do. And that's why I'm putting my stake in the ground, right there at PS 55. That's where I'm starting, and that's where I'm claiming ground zero for the new Bronx machine. You see, because I have this incredible idea, but it's really because I've been listening to all of you. Imagine a 100-year-old schoolhouse in the middle of the South Bronx, home to the National Health and Wellness Center at PS 55. Why not? We can change the way we eat. We can change the way we learn, and we can change lives and outcomes in this and future generations. Opportunity is nowhere, no. Opportunity is now here, and this is our moment. As we say in my class, lettuce, turn up the beat. I'll say it one more time. Lettuce, turn up the beat. And I'll ask you all to join me and say, lettuce, turn up the beat. Tom is right. We're here and we're coming for you. Meet my farmers. Meet my vegetables. These are my kids. Si se puede.
There's enough music promoting sex, drugs, and violence. Why can't we make something to promote kill? Right? Broccoli. I'm in love with that man. Go. I'm serious. Tell him why you do what you do and what you about to get down on.
So I'm a raw vegan chef. And, you know, I take all the ratchet food and make it fresh. This is about what? TEDx, changing the way we eat, right? So to change the way you eat, you got to change the way you think. And so I got some fresh dandelion. I got a little bit of lemon here. Got the Vitamix blender on deck. This right here is health insurance.
Now today what's got me excited is the end of the world. Not that I'm excited for it to finish, but I'm really interested in the people who are planning for the end of time. In the US alone, there's over 3 million of them, the Doomsday Preppers. Now, the closer I observed these preppers, I was able to see the kind of brilliance in their planning. They weren't concerned with the granular details of the food industry. They'd actually stepped back and saw that the food distribution system was actually the most delicate thing. I think so many of us take it for granted that there's just always going to be food turning up on our local grocery store shelves. But in any kind of disaster, the food distribution chain is the first thing to break. And these preppers just don't want to leave themselves vulnerable for when that time comes, or if it does. Food is actually a common language that's able to transcend geography and borders and worldviews, and that food really is a common tongue that all of us can speak.
The food movement needs money. All right. You probably just heard the shortest TED Talk. That's it. Thank you very much. So I realized that contrary to my impression, I bet a lot of people's impression, that industrial agriculture and food system is actually not efficient. You know, I would have thought, okay, it may not be tasty, it may not be even healthy, but at least it's efficient. More than 90% of our food choices being made in a way that is highly processed at an industrial scale, and we don't even know what's in there, right? Eating is a moral act, and I'll further iterate. Eating is a political act. Each time we buy, we cook, we offer food, that's a vote. That is a direct democracy vote. Our brain does not need to be tricked when it comes to food. Real food is naturally satisfying, and our brain knows that. So nature is actually our friend. Food movement activists are a happier bunch. You guys are a happier bunch than, you know, and because food rarely divides, food unite. good food unite, right? But it's not just because of that. It's because this is a movement as profound, as potentially impactful as it is, I can actually see the finish line.
Despite all this talk around good food and healthy eating and family farms and responsible agriculture, there's a dirty little secret in our rural communities. Factory farms are growing at an unprecedented rate. That the majority of the animals that we raise for food in our country continue to be treated as machines, spending their entire lives without ever feeling the sun on their back or the earth under their feet. We have to remember there's a common lesson in successful organizing. And that lesson is that those who are most impacted by an issue need to be the ones out in front on that issue, proposing solutions for change. And that's why we need farmers. But it's not enough to just buy the types of food that we want. We have to be willing to go to our grocery stores and our restaurants and ask tough questions and challenge hollow arguments. It's going to take all of us working together and taking a collective stand against this industry and calling it what it is, which is a crime against nature and a crime against animals.
It doesn't matter how much local organic food we buy or how much money foundations pour into agricultural development unless we listen to what women farmers want and need and then work with them to find ways to provide it. Thank you. Because as goes the fate of women, so goes the fate of the world. Because if we ignore women farmers, we ignore them at our own peril. Let's be smarter and give them the honor, recognition, and value they need to nourish both people and the planet.
We need farmers. The United States Department of Agriculture predicts that in the next decade, half of all farmers in the United States will retire. Half. And from every statistic I've read, we're not even close to replacement rate, let alone expanding opportunities for new beginning farmers, for small operations. He decided to literally plant roots in a country that had just told him he did not belong. That act of radical resilience, of deciding to rehabilitate the soil and himself to feed people, that story grounds me every day. And that story makes my Ji-chan a hero in my life. I want the people who work the land, the people who feed us, to be valued. And as so many people have said today, I can't do this alone. Let's do something radical with our lives. I'll go back home and continue to learn how to farm, and I'll be waiting for you in our field of dreams. Thank you.